Hello, everyone. My name is DeShaun Williams, and I'm your host for the Founders Table. Today, we have Miss Alexi on the podcast. And a little bit about Miss Alexi is she is a resilient speaker, happiness trainer, and joy messenger who helps people navigate life's challenges with greater strength, purposes, and hope. Drawing from her own experience overcoming cancer, reintervention, and adversity, she shares practical resilience tools, humor, and heartfelt wisdom that inspires audience to live with greater joy and possibility. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Miss Alexi. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. This is a, I'm delighted to be on this show.
Yes, ma'am. It's great to have you on the show. And the first thing I want to ask you is, so if you don't mind sharing, because I see in your bio you that you mentioned cancer.
Yes.
What did that look like for you?
Well, as soon as I got that phone call, I remember that I hung up the receiver. I said thank you. And I knew in my heart of hearts I was going to beat it. I had no idea how, like Zilcho, but there was this something inside that said you're going to beat it. And so I started doing some research. I made some lifestyle changes, nothing major. Got rid of the toxins, embraced on a raw food diet at the time, and I just did some emotional work, some forgiveness work. And a year later, without medical intervention, I was cancer free.
It's amazing. And, the it's amazing to be cancer free. The I won't say like having cancer is, I would never say that's amazing because me personally, I have a family member that is dealing with it's going through cancer right now and it's constantly having complications with the treatments and whatnot. So, and So thank you for sharing that. And I know that was probably that curveball I threw out. I promise that probably the only curveball. No promises, but one of few curveballs I throw out there. But to really get on topic of today's show, when we come on, we talk about business and what it looks like behind the scenes. Um, if you don't mind just explaining what it is, what does your company do? Who does it serve? And what problem does it serve or solve?
Well, it could really address anybody because we live in such challenging times. There's so much loss, grief, trauma. I mean, absolutely everybody you talk to, but I focus primarily on women 50 plus who are going perhaps through life transitions, maybe an empty nester, unexpected divorce or loss, or caring for an aging parent, or maybe a health diagnosis or health challenge diagnosis. And so I help them through daily tools they can embrace to find purpose, meaning, and passion in their life again, because we all have something that we really enjoy doing, but maybe just through circumstances, it has become a chore. And I just found that when people are living their passion and their purpose, they're more productive, they're happier. Um, they have found meaning in their life and they could be very much an influence on their family members, a colleague, somebody on a network meeting. It's all about sharing, growing, and making that impact. Like I say to people, what kind of legacy are you going to leave when you leave this earth plane? I mean, it doesn't have to be anything shattering, but something that maybe influenced other people and it really fed your soul. And sometimes we don't know about it. That's not the point. We do it because it's it's a heartfelt thing we want to do because we feel so committed about it.
Yes, ma'am. And as I'm sitting here, for the ones that won't be able to see the video, I just want to point out like the joy, strength, and resilience background that you have, along with the resilience with heart. And just want to ask, what brought about that name, Resilience with Heart?
Well, resilience was really, at the forefront. I was really going to focus on resilience, but I sort of focus not on theory or scientific research. I focus on the emotions, what I have experienced with heart. And so I'm also a heart math practitioner. So everything revolves around heart as well as happy for no reason training. It's that feeling that you have in your heart because your heart is really the key player in anybody's body. It's not your brain, it's your heart. It's just like listening to your intuition. If your heart is saying do this or don't do that, really pay attention. So I really wanted to come across that the resilience was really coming from what your heart was saying and how you felt about it. And obviously the smiles that it brought.
Yes. I always, as you was saying that, it, I remember a song that I heard when I'm, I'm only 28, but a song I heard back when I was in high school 10, 10, 12 years ago, 10, 14 years ago, actually, somewhere around that time. And it was a song that says the heart wants what it wants. And that was just something that came to mind because, you know, the heart, as you said, the heart can tell you a lot about who you are as a person, but also if you should listen to it, and like you should listen to your heart because it knows what it wants, and it knows that. And sometimes it can also, most times it'll tell you what's good for you and what's not good for you.
Absolutely. Your heart is the guy that's in charge, really. Listen to your heart. It will never fail you. It won't lie. And it's that, when it speaks to you, for me, it puts a smile on my face, either do this or don't do that, or it's a good idea, so I focus on the positive things that my heart is telling me.
Yes, ma'am. So my next question for you, and as I'm looking at it, I think I could have started off with this question, but what is the what is a life defining moment that changed the direction of your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, actually, used to work as a chef um, all year round, but in the summertime, I'd work at remote fishing lodges. I really like that, the fresh air and the remoteness. You don't see the city lights. Listen to the traffic. And I was at one particular lodge for 4 years, and 90% of the guests were returning fishermen who are now bringing their grandsons. They've been coming for so long. And so I'd go and talk to them during their dinner time. Well, I'm not going to talk to them about fishing. So I started telling jokes. And so the next year when they saw me, they go, "Oh, Alexi, do you have jokes?" So I started accumulating jokes. And so then I realized I had the gift to bring jokes to people's lives. And I share jokes at the dog park, at the grocery store, at the ATM machine, even on Zoom meetings. So I had that gift with joy. But also, the year that I was homeless, I didn't focus on my homelessness. I just focused on everyday activities. Um, how can I be productive? How can I make a difference in people's lives? So I started doing a short video on resilience joy boost. So that's how the joy and the resilience sort of came to be. And then as a happy for no reason training, kindness, happiness, and gratitude are part of the equation of happiness. So again, joy is what comes into it. So it just joy brings so much to people's lives, a lot more than they take for granted.
Yes, ma'am. And here's it's an interesting fact about me. I've probably been fishing once and I never caught anything. And I didn't go back because honestly, I didn't know how to fish at the time. Nobody ever taught me. So, I haven't went back fishing. So that's just I always tell people that's a red flag about me. but other things I know what to do. Also, I said I probably wouldn't throw another curveball in there, but you mentioned telling jokes and sharing jokes with people. Do you have a particular joke that you would like to share today?
Okay, let me think here. Okay, Billy Graham just gets off the airplane after speaking to her, and the chauffeur is waiting to take him home. And so he says to the chauffeur, Uh, he says, I've never driven a limo before. Do you think I could drive it for a while? And the chauffeur says, yeah, sure, no problem. So the two of them get into the limo. They're bombing down the highway, and Billy's doing 50 and 60 and 70. Well, lo and behold, a state trooper spots him, stops the car, and when he goes up to the window and Billy rolls down the window, he does a double take and he says, excuse me. So he goes back to his cruiser, calls his supervisor, and says, there's different circumstances on when we give tickets, and this is one of them. I've got this really important person, and I don't know what to do. And the supervisor says, is it a dignitary? He says, no, more important. Is it the president? No, more important. He says, well, then who is it? He says, I think it's Jesus because Billy Graham is the chauffeur.
Okay. Never heard that one, but that one definitely, I I'll definitely have to keep that one in mind because I grew up like in the church and really knowing a lot about Billy Graham and where I'm originally from. That's a Billy Graham library, stayed over. So um, definitely, I I have utmost respect for Billy Graham and I absolutely love it. And so my next question for you is, what is one hard decision you've made as a founder that shaped your business?
Um, Everyone, like I said, is fighting some kind of battle. And if I could just put a smile on somebody's face, or a compliment, or a smile, or some kind of encouragement, or a telephone call, it's been worth it. You may never know the impact you had on a person. That's not the point. But sometimes when you get back the feedback, you go, oh my goodness, this is incredible. So, for example, I used to live in a high rise and I would take my dogs across the street to the park. And I befriended a young man from the Philippines standing on the corner having a cigarette. He had come here from the Philippines to look after his brother who had cancer, to take him to doctor's appointments, etc. And so we became friends. I talked to him every few weeks for 5 or 10 minutes. And then one day he said that his brother had passed. And when I come to the prayer circle at the funeral home down the street in a couple of weeks, and I said, yes, absolutely. And so when I arrived, there were about 30 women in the prayer room, and I made my way up to my friend. He took me up to the casket. I had never met his brother, and he explained that they're waiting to confirm uh, reservations to ship the body and the casket back to the Philippines so their mother could be there for the burial. We exchanged a few words. I left. Then several weeks later, I'm walking down the street and a young Filipino woman approaches me and she says, were you at so and so's funeral prayer circle the other day? And I said, yes, I was. She says, you have no idea how your presence impacted our community. I tell you, it's something I'll take with me to my grave. I did it as a gesture of kindness and support for my friend, and yet I impacted so many other people. So, my point is you never know when your kind act, when your joke, when your smile, when your compliment will impact a person. Like you just never know. That's not the point of doing it. You're doing it, you know, for that person for right at that moment to really feel better. And for myself, I do it, for that same reason as well, not expecting anything back.
All right. And, I think. I honestly think a lot of people today, when they're in business, they, no matter or whatever it is that they do, I feel like a lot of people today, they feel like if they do something, then they have to have something in return. And
Mhm.
as you stated, it it's not about always getting something back in return. It's about being able to give because, you know, what you can give and not expect anything in return, and in return you get back something that's 10 times greater. You get lasting relationships, and in business you may get referrals and many other things. You may be able to get to meet a lot of new amazing people,
Mhm.
and it's just it's just phenomenal because not everything needs a monetary value behind it. It's more or less of, yeah, money helps keep a business doors open. However, at the same time, who you know and the impact that you make on people's lives, it can help generate that money that you are looking for, and it can come even when you're not looking for it at that given moment.
That's right. And, another way of putting it too is it's spiritual money in your
Yes.
heart, in your heart bank account.
Yes, ma'am. And I just want to ask this question. As someone who prays and really strong in faith, how does that how does that make you different than maybe a someone that doesn't, and as a business owner that doesn't?
When things happen unexpectedly, something good, unexpected raise or a client or some other opportunity, who do you think? Do you think the connections or do you think a higher power?
Powerful. Me personally, I'm a I'm a Christian, so I'm a thank God,
Hmm.
and no matter what it's been, I've always told people when they've asked me, who would you like to thank for this? I would like to thank God because if it wasn't for Him, I would not be here. I would not be in this position. And honestly, I think that's what sets a lot of us apart.
Hmm.
And when you have a someone who believes in a higher power versus someone who doesn't, because who are you putting that trust in? Who are you giving that thanks to, as you stated?
Yeah.
And another question I have for you. What is a mistake you constantly see, not just entrepreneurs, but also people that you interact with make, and how should it be approached instead?
People are always criticizing either the weather, the traffic, your Zoom challenges, or they're complaining about the government or about this client or about their spouse, or people are always complaining. They find more reason to complain than to praise. When you call somebody on the phone that maybe you haven't spoken to in a while, how you doing? What's the first thing they say is something negative. It's become a habit. Like for example, I'll share a story. A 4-year-old little girl goes for ice cream and cookies on Sunday afternoons with her father, with her grandfather. And one Sunday afternoon, he's sick in bed. So we asked Grandma to take the little girl. So off the two of them go, come back in a couple hours. She goes running up to Grandpa's room, who's still sick in bed. And he says, "How was that?" She says, "We didn't see any horses, asses, sons of bitches, or tree huggers. All Grandma did was wave and smile. It was really boring." So it's cute, but it's not. Because in an early age, this little girl is being taught to look for the negative, you know? So, it's habitual, get it from people all around. And like, if you're calling somebody, like I make it a habit when I call somebody I haven't spoken to for a long time, I'll go, as soon as I say hello, so share some good news. I don't want to hear the negative stuff. There's enough negative stuff around. Share some good news. Or when I'm on a network meeting, I'll say, what's the best thing that's happened today? And it takes people off guard because they're ready to say something negative. It's just, we live in such a habitual world of negativity. That's just sort of expected from you.
Those that can't see for those that are listening, and I'm smiling because it happened to me right before we started. How are you doing? Well, I didn't feel too good yesterday. Well, let's focus on the positive. So it was, and it, now that you mention it, I've never really thought about it, but when a lot of like we are so wired to focus on the negative because it's just so, I guess because it's just so much easier to see the negative than it is to see the good in things. And it, even when I, even when I personally tell people, even if one thing went wrong and everything, even if one thing went good and everything else went wrong, you still have one positive thing that you can share praise about, that you can talk about, and that can continue to push you forward to the next level. It's all about how how are we going to actually look at that positive thing? Are we going to say, "Oh, well, I did all of this, and all I got done was just one thing," or are we going to be able to say, "Hey, everything may have not went to plan, but but I was able to get this done, and that's all that matters."
Right. And it's the same thing with how you start your day. Before your feet hit the floor, think of three things you're grateful for. I mean, it could be something as simple that I have a warm bed, that I have a covers, that the sun's streaming in through the window, or that I'm going to be on a podcast interview today, or that I've got food in the fridge, or that I'm going to see my grandchildren. There's always something you can be grateful for when you first get up in the morning. And by the same token, at least three things you can be grateful for at the end of the day. Even if something didn't go right, you can be grateful that you learned a lesson from that thing.
Yes. And I used to be that person that I would wake up and I would hear the birds chirping outside. I was like, why y'all so loud early in the morning? And as I've gotten noticed, those are a good sign because I've I have the opportunity to wake up and live my day and be able to inspire others as well.
Mhm.
There's some people that they don't get that opportunity. So,
That's right. And some people can't hear it either.
right. And being able to, going outside and you see all the fog out there and it's like, man, I can't see anything. Why it has to be so foggy? Well, fog isn't always everyone's best friend, but at least we get to experience it. We get to we get to see it because just like some people that can't hear the birds in the morning, they can't see the fog.
Mhm.
A lot of things that we have that someone else may not have, we tend to take for granted. And I feel like that is something that we need to stop doing because you never know when that ability may be taken away from you.
Very good point. Absolutely.
And, you know, I have one final question for you today. And that question is, while you've dropped so much information for us today, one of the final questions I have for you is if the audience can take away one thing from this episode, what would you like for them to take?
To make a point to leave at least one person happier than they were before you connected with them. So it could be, the cashier at the grocery store. It could be somebody that you held the door open for at the store. It could be somebody that you shared a joke with. It could be somebody that you gave a hug to. So whatever the action is, leave at least one person happier than they were before they met you.
Absolutely love that. And I'm gonna kind of piggyback off that because I always say if I can if I'm in a room of 50 people and only one person was inspired by the talk that I gave, guess what? I've made a difference in one person's life.
That is so
And that
true.
and that one person can go out and make a difference in another person's life. And it's just a domino effect that keeps going. And so I absolutely love that. And if anyone would like to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do so?
Well, LinkedIn, which is just strictly my name, Alexi Bracey, or Alexi Bracey at Gmail, and just how my name is spelled. That's that's the way it is. It's very easy. And for any of the listeners that connect with me, I'll send you a list of a poster of resilience habits that you can do on a daily basis, just to give you some more food for thought.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for offering that to the audience. And definitely reach out to Miss Lexi and take her up on that offer. I think it'll be beneficial, especially helping to go from waking up with or just going by your day from a negative mindset and starting to focus on the positives instead. So I want to thank you for being a guest on the show today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I just wanted to add one thing. If
Yes, ma'am.
anybody that connects with me because they would like this poster sent to me, well, there's a bit of a caveat in there. I will gladly send it to you, but you have to share a joke.
Well, get y'all jokes ready. I'll start getting mine ready. But get y'all jokes ready and so that y'all can get that poster. I'm pretty sure all of us have jokes. Just and I'm put my spin on. Make sure that y'all jokes are work appropriate and family friendly.
Mhm. Very cool. And I'm glad I put a smile on your face as well.
Yes, ma'am. And once again, I just want to thank you for being a guest on the show today and for sharing this with us today. Just not just your expertise, but also your inspiration and motivation with us as well.
Well, it's been my utmost pleasure. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. And for everyone listening, this has been another episode of the Founders Table podcast. We had Miss Alexi Bracey on the show today. I'm your host, DeShaun Williams. Remember, this is not goodbye. This is until next time. And remember to pull up another seat to the table next week.